So can't find the Trumpanzes I'm looking for. My wife was the first one to say that I heard. Maybe that was something she heard, but she said it to me, and I thought that was funny. Still looking for the Trumpanzes, still looking for the Israel supporters, still looking for anybody that has balls. It's interesting. You wouldn't think it would be so hard to find Israel supporters. It's funny too, I was going to share this with one of my buddies, but he's married to a Jewish broad. He's a Catholic Italian guy, not really, but foundation is Catholic, who's married to a Jewish broad. And it's interesting how
They have kids?
she does. She had a kid from a previous marriage. But they've been together since the kid was like 2. So when he first said it, he said he had a kid. He didn't say I have a stepkid. It was actually pretty cool to hear somebody say that. And then he was like, well, you know. No, but I don't know, like, I don't know, like that commercial just threw me off. It was this Modelo commercial where, of course, it's like the Mexican stereotype. And at one point it shows the lowrider scraping against the ground, creating all the sparks. Well, that's damage. You do that and the cops see you, you're in trouble. It's like that Wingstop commercial. I see it all the time where they're like, put me on stuff. You know, and they're sitting there doing donuts and they're eating chicken in the back of the car while the driver's doing donuts. What I don't understand. Are you condoning that? Are you suggesting that the impressionable kids that watch that shit should go out there and do donuts? I never liked that shit. I never liked that feeling of absolute helplessness. And that I could bust my car and all that shit doing it. It's one thing if you're in a huge parking lot and there's some snow or something like that, or maybe you're in like a big field or something, but even then, I always thought it was just stupid. Like, it's so dangerous. It's so fucking dangerous. Anthony Rapp, that's the guy that he was in Dazed and Confused, and he's the guy that Kevin Spacey fucked with. So I actually stumbled across this this video. Trin Matthews or whatever her name is. She was actually a pretty big actress for a minute there. She was talking about the gold juice and how she was offered the gold juice. I guess she does this podcast with this other comedy broad. I don't remember. But she brought it up and she asked her if she had ever been offered the gold juice, and she was like, what are you talking about? And she sort of brought it up, and then I guess they brought her back to talk about it more. And she was saying that, you know, she never really was into drugs and stuff like that. And so she was at a party one time, and some shadowy figure pulled her aside and offered her the gold juice. And it was supposedly this thing, this elixir that gave you eternal life and, you know, all this other stuff. And it was really weird. You know, she talks about it very seriously. And, you know, I understand there are multiple sides, but, like, the whole notion that she's just doing this for some sort of attention or whatever, like, that's career-killing shit. You don't do that kind of stuff and then get more gigs. So why would she do it? Why would she talk about that? I don't know. I know there's so much of it. I was talking to a buddy of mine. We went to high school together. And he worked with me on the garbage truck. I got him the garbage job, actually. But he's one of these guys that, like, he's actually one of the few people that I was always sort of jealous of. because he was this shorter guy, skinny, not the best looking guy, but he was always just really popular, and he was always really cool. And he's one of the few people from that town that I grew up with that I liked, and still have a desire to communicate with. And I've looked for him throughout the years, and he's just been doing his thing. But he's like this kid who was this hippie and liked the dead and used to smoke the good herbs and all that shit. Like, I always just wished I could be that guy. He was always so much cooler than me. But he's again, his wife's Jewish, and he's really in that conspiracy world, but to a certain degree. He was telling me he gets vaccinated. He got vaccinated. And he was like, well, there's really no reason not to. It's like, what? Like, you understand that all of the evidence telling you not to get vaccinated is kept from you, right?
He was right about one thing.
But my position in this conspiracy thing, it alienates me. I mean, it even alienates me from my wife. My wife doesn't think the same way I think. And it's strange because, like, I've always been sort of ahead of the curve on this, where, what I'm talking about is kind of crazy until it's not. And then it's the thing that everybody's talking about. Forever, I'm talking about the pedophile stuff and all that, and how prominent it is, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and I think about, like, a lot of the questions that I've always had that are now sort of coming to light. I've always been somebody that looked at the old photographs, the old architecture, and just been like, fucking how? It's amazing how this Tartaria shit has come out of nowhere in the last couple of years. But that's how it works, right? Stuff comes out, and then if it's true especially, it resonates with people and it spreads. So you can't just say, well, it came out in the last couple of years, so it's trash. That's not necessarily true. And I always say this, and it's, I guess it's hard to believe because you never actually see it. But to me, when we're talking about the Jews, if you're raised Jewish and you get to that point where you're an adult who makes their own decisions, and you go, that shit is fucking awful. That shit is supremacist craziness. It's an ugly, crazy religion. It's crazy. It's crazy how, because we're not allowed to talk about it, we don't talk about all their crazy shit. But their shit is crazy. And it's ugly. Their religion doesn't mean peace, like Islam means peace. That's not how that shit works. But if you were to walk away from that, which, again, I've never actually met anybody. I've had a couple of people periodically come through a live feed or two and say that this is that, but in my experience, unless you know the person, you don't know who the fuck that is. But I have no, like, I'm gonna second guess it, and I'm gonna question things, and I'm gonna, but if you say that you put your Judaism down and you want to make the world a better place, I'm not just gonna discriminate against you because you were raised Jewish, because you have that Jew look to you. It's gonna be harder to trust you, but as soon as I do, it has nothing to do with, the people itself. The people that want to believe it is one thing, but the people, no, people are people. You can be raised absolute piece of shit and not be an absolute piece of shit. So like my buddy's girl, like if she's not, it really comes down to like, are you, do you condemn the genocide that's happening right now, or do you just tell people they can't talk about it because you're Jewish, they're Jewish, it's Jewish, you're a dumb goyim. Like if you think I'm a goyim, there's a lot to it. But I mean, as much as I like this dude and I'd love to hang out with this dude, and maybe we will hang out if he comes back to town. He lives in Colorado. But I can't imagine, you know, the wives thing is going to work out too well. I can't imagine I'm going to be able to hang out with his wife and have any sort of meaningful conversation. Like, that's just it. Him and I were talking about Richard Pryor and Red Fox and all these things, and it's eye-opening to me to talk to somebody like that because he's an intelligent dude. And for me, all of this is like second nature almost. Like, at this point, I'm not surprised when I go to look up the official explanation, and it's just a bunch of yada yada. It's like Richard Pryor again. Supposedly, he's a black guy, of course. So the black guy has a pimp father and born into a whorehouse. And yet, somehow, he was still raised by his grandmother. I think he got in trouble at age 12 or something. Then he joined the military, did his little bit in the military, got out, and immediately joined the Masons, the Freemasons. And was almost immediately, like, it's you know, the narrative is that it was like a struggle for black people and Richard Pryor, blah, blah, whitey, this, blah. But guys like Richard Pryor and Red Fox are playing the character that Jews like to see. Jews like the idea that oh, it's an old black man who has a son who still lives with him and they live in a dump. Isn't that funny? They live at the dump. Isn't that funny? They're trash men. Like the idea of the Cosby Show having a doctor and a lawyer as the parents was like groundbreaking television. It's groundbreaking to portray black people as smart, intelligent people who don't, you know, single families and all that shit. It's groundbreaking. And it kind of is, because the Jews who controlled the TV, who controlled the media before that, like my dad, who is 65, he tells me that he can remember when he was a kid, if a black person was on TV, people would go out to the front door and, black person on TV, and all the blacks would come running. They would go to the house that has the TV. So not everybody had the TV. So the houses that had TVs, everybody'd go run just to see it, because it had been kept from them for so long. Okay. But that, you know, I believe it. I believe that you know, especially when TV is becoming this new medium that's in people's houses, and you know, not everybody has one, and again, all of the actors and actresses and TV shows, they're not about black people. So when you would see one, it was you know, new. It was like, holy shit. And so I you know, I look at guys like Richard Pryor, who was in his early 20s when he was first featured on The Sullivan Show. Well, when did he get out of the military and build up that career, like build up that, you know, Cat Williams talked about how, what's his name? The little guy. Kevin Hart. How Kevin Hart just sort of appeared. He just sort of appeared and he was famous. Nobody ever remembers going to a small club where Kevin Hart was trying to build up, work on his act and all that. He just sort of appears. And that's how it is with so many of these people. I think Richard Pryor is completely manufactured. His entire background, his entire everything. And I think one of the big things is that he was gay. That's why he had such a hard time playing that role and not needing to freebase fucking cocaine and light himself on fire, in his private life. You got to be in a pretty bad spot to go down that road. But, Richard Pryor seems gay as hell to me. And he's part of that that generation that, black guys are supposed to be like dead macho black guy, and treat bitches, bitch, and just that whole, just furthering that narrative that women are second class. But you see this, you see the Red Foxes of the world. Red Fox wasn't funny. I understand that times are different. I get it. And it might be horrible, but go watch a Bill Cosby thing from back in the day. Bill Cosby was funny. He made some decent jokes. His stand-up was pretty good. I beg of you, show me a Richard Pryor stand-up, a Richard Pryor that was funny. For me, I don't like seeing the stupid black guy, like the stereotype stupid black guy. That's never been like B.A. Baracus. A pity the food, blah, blah, blah. That stupid haircut, all those stupid fucking chain. Like, if you look at B.A. right now, there's plenty of guys. Like, you look at the whole rest of the A-team, and yeah, they got an 80s look to them, but it's still reasonable. B.A. looks like a clown. His big socks, his three-stripe socks pulled way up, his tight pants, he was a fucking clown. And for most of history, the black that was willing to play the fucking stereotype clown was who got the position. It's the blacks that question things, that put things into perspective, that are sort of philosophical, that seemingly have the most problems. Like, Dave Chappelle is so amazing that even though he wasn't willing to play the role anymore, he's still famous. And it's because of what Dave Chappelle's sets are like funny philosophical discussions. His thing about how old is 14 anyway, or really, he's right. He was talking about there's this black girl that none of you guys heard about that was kidnapped and being held at a house. She chewed through the ropes, shimmied out the window, got herself back home, called the police, and by the time the news story was running, those guys were already arrested. And she was 14. So to say that a 14-year-old is a victim of being peed on when they're down on their knees, like, give me the pee, that's gross. But that's, come on now. Let's be realistic. Why was a 14-year-old girl hanging out with R. Kelly? How come parents are never, ever, ever involved in any of these conversations? My kids wouldn't even ask me. The other day, kids were out with a kind of a bad kid. And they were out, and the kid got up on the roof of a school and was sort of fooling around. And my youngest wanted to get up on the roof, but my oldest was there, and they were like, well, let's call Dad and ask. That my youngest said, let's call Dad and ask if we can go on the roof. And my oldest was like, no. No, I'm not even going to call Dad because he's probably just going to tell us to come home if we call him with something stupid like that. And of course, they didn't go on the roof. But the idea of, hey, Dad, can we go hang out with R. Kelly? No. Can we go hang out with this man? No. No, you can't. I will always wonder why an adult wants to hang out with children. It's not even about the kid, it's the adult. I'm the fun dad in the neighborhood as long as my kids are involved. If my kids are gone or at their grandmother's or what, I'm not out there playing with the other kids. Oh, I failed to help them. They were being abused and I didn't know. I feel so bad. Crazy. This show is so dumb. This show is so fucking dumb. Like, these shows are designed to make you feel better about the system that you live in, right? As much as they portray the horrible shit, they make it look like there's all these units and they put in all this effort and have the computer screens where they can move this shit around and, they have the magic Scantron ID definer, blah, blah. They don't. The vast majority of the crimes, especially big crimes like murder and shit, they go unsolved. Unless somebody confesses, there's nothing. Even if you're on like video, most of the time, like security video and shit like that, there's nothing. Those cameras can't see shit. How many times have you seen videos of this place got robbed? If anybody knows the person in this video, please contact the police, blah, blah, blah. Because nobody can make out who's. They're hoping that somebody recognizes the gait or the clothing that they're wearing or something like that, the haircut. Hey, maybe that's my friend I should turn in. But that's how the system works. And it's strange because like him and I are talking about MLK and we're talking about these things and I realize how much different I am. I've gotten to this point where I think it's all, so much of it is just lies. Lies, misdirection, all of it. And like I say, this alienates me from even my wife. My wife doesn't, I don't think we do. It's a TV show, stupid. She thinks it's stupid. And at the same time, it's like, so you believe we live on a round earth flying through space? And she's like, I don't know. Like, she's still there. She's still in that questioning mode. She just hasn't looked at nearly as much shit as I have. And her focus is in a different direction. But, like I say, it's strange how, like, when your focus is in a direction, how you see what you want to see. And most people get really upset when you start questioning them about it. If I start questioning my wife about birth charts or rocks or anything like that and the legitimacy of it, she gets mad. She says she doesn't get mad, but she gets mad. And it's like, well, why do I want to talk to somebody about it that just doesn't believe it anyway? Well, I mean, I might. You might say something that I can wrap my head around. I'm open to talking to Christians all day long. I think it's fucking silly, but maybe you'll say something that makes sense. Maybe I can help you. Maybe I'll say something that makes sense to you. Who knows? Most people don't. You don't. You don't want your mind changed. You want to believe in all of this stuff. And nothing that I say matters. The inconsistencies or like, to me, somebody posted something on Facebook. Like, these are the esoteric symbols of blah, blah, blah. And I'm always going to ask, like, who came up with that? When it comes to the birth charts and the rocks and, you know, whatever else you're talking about spiritually, whatever. My question is always who came up with it? And I think that's an important question that people don't bother to ask. They just believe what they like. Well, I like pretty rocks and I don't believe in religion, so I've been trained to believe in something. I have to believe in something higher than myself and blah, blah, blah. So you find the thing that you like. This is the one that I like. This one seems to make the most sense. This one doesn't hurt anybody. This one, you know, whatever. If you're watching the video, don't forget to like it. Definitely spread it to your friends and family. I don't want to say the other S word because it seems to fuck with my video when I ask you guys to spread the video. But come on, 11 people here. You should have some sort of opinion on this. But it's really a fucking strange thing, man. It's strange to not be able to have questions and to see things and all that, and then not have anywhere to put it. No, I like my wife will say, this is a calming stone. This is a stone that has calming properties, and yeah, and it's like, okay, well, who picked that? Who said that? How did they find it out? Did they have a test and then it's like, I don't know, it's just weird. It's all just weird to me, and it seems like it's all more distractions. It's all stuff to keep you from focusing on the unity and the exposure that we need for all of us to live a much better life. And that's really what it comes down to. You know, at the very least, shit, if the fucking rocks and the birth charts and all that shit is true, well, the only way we actually find that out is if we override the Jews that control our narrative as is. You know, if it really is the idea of birth charts and all that, if that stuff really works and they're hiding that stuff, and you know, that's the thing, we just don't know. Until we override the Jews that control our perception, we really don't know what is real. What's fake, what's real, how much of it's, you know, all of that. And that's that part where I just, it makes everything difficult. You know, because I'm going to offend somebody, or somebody's going to get upset about something I'm saying, and I just don't understand that at all. If you believe what you believe and you believe it to be true, then why would it matter if some guy doesn't believe it? Unless what he's saying is something that you're avoiding looking at, or, you know, puts a hole in your shit somehow. I don't understand why you would get upset. If anything, it's an opportunity to teach somebody something that doesn't think the same way, but, you know, you can show them, hey, it's actually this. But most people it's what you want. You believe what you want. Evidence or lack of evidence be damned. It doesn't matter. You believe what you want to believe. You have so much more proof that whatever you believe isn't real. You have so much more proof that whatever it is you believe, not only is it not real, that you know, it's the opposite. And yet, because you'll get like some individual thing every once in a while that coincidentally matches the way that you want it to believe, then you go with it. And that's all you're ever looking for, is the little tiny pieces that tell you what you want to hear to make you feel like you're right. Like, my wife was talking about horoscope kind of stuff one day, and how because this is happening, that's happening, then that means that it's a good day for your... I read it, and I just thought, like, for the most part, anybody that reads this will be able to apply it to themselves and will want to apply it to themselves. You know, today is a good day to travel and meet new people and take on challenges and one of the things was stand up for your rights. Like, it's never a bad idea to not stand up for your rights. I mean, a guy has a gun to your head. Yeah, you can say what. See that again? It's like if you're some crazy man who puts a gun to my head and says, "You better believe in Jesus or I'm going to shoot you," I'll tell you whatever the fuck you to hear. I don't give a fuck. I don't feel any loyalty to that. Well, the Jews, they were told little badges to identify them as Jews, so they wore them. Like, what? That's stupid. Why would they do something so stupid, especially if it meant, they would become some of those missing Jews that apparently nobody noticed. But it's always like, okay, so instead of us sitting down, laying out, okay, I like this, I need this, these are my wants, my needs, and this is the way I want to live my life. What are your wants and needs and how you want to live your life? Let's see if those things work together. And if they don't, well, then we have to make other plans. But at least we know where each other stands and how we want to do things. And to take away from that, to be like, oh, well, long before my wife talked about it, the idea of meditation to me was just such a weird thing. Like, especially once the live came around and you could go live, I think you will get so much more growth and insight if you go live and just talk openly. Hopefully you're not censored, but if you can go live and talk about what you believe and how you believe it and why you believe it, and you're open to being challenged and you can handle objections and all that, that to me seems a lot more valuable than sitting around going into the head that got you there to begin with. And I know one thing our head does is it fills in the holes. It's like the underwear gnomes from South Park. You ever been, you had this great idea. Oh, I got this great idea. I got this thing. And then you go to try to word it and it just won't come out. And you're like, I can't put it into word. I just don't know. But it's because it's dumb. It's because it doesn't work. It's because there's holes in it. But when you were doing it in your head just skipped over the hole. Once you tried to vocalize it and put it out into the reality, you immediately run into the hole. And since your head's not just overriding it, Peerless Society says Trump. I mean, again, You believe and support this guy and all that, but that's the best you're going to be able to do. I just don't get it. I do get it. I know I get it from the perspective that I see it, that you're probably just some dumb racist who Trump appeals to you on that level, but you're not willing to admit it. So you can't talk about it. It's that hole. It's another one of those, all the Trump supporters, they support Trump in their heads, and then you go, okay, well, tell me why you support Trump. What's the reason? What's the good thing that he's done? Why do you support Trump? And they have nothing to say. So you're going to vote for Biden is what you're saying. See what I mean? Do you guys, don't I tell you this is what happens every time? Every single time you try talking about what an idiot Trump is, the Trump supporters go, oh, so you're a big Biden supporter then, huh? They tell themselves what they need to. They create their own narrative. This guy will argue his own narrative. It's not going to be what I say. It's going to be his own narrative about what I say because he can't argue what I say. He has he's had this conversation a few times with a Biden supporter, so he just immediately goes into that. And it's so typical. It's crazy. There's no way you can be serious that Biden is better choice than Trump for American people. I as far as I can tell, our country is better with Biden at the helm. Now, do I believe the president really does anything? No. I think it's just a figurehead to make us believe that we have some sort of control.
Biden is the lesser of two evils.
Absolutely. Biden, again, so this is...
He actually pretends like he gives a shit.
Well, this is that thing where, like, we watched the video going into it hating both sides, right? And I'm not stupid enough to fall for, slap me in the face with the left hand or the right hand. I'm going to slap you. You got to pick one. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll pick the left one. No, I'm going to say, no, I don't want to be slapped by either. I think not voting is the smartest thing we can do. But if I'm watching the debate from a completely objective perspective, Biden answered questions. Trump seemed like an ignorant, stupid child. And I'm not using those words with hyperbole. That's what it seemed like. The rumors are that he's really dumb and that he doesn't read any of the briefings or he barely knows what's going on. And then when you see him speak, it's like, yo, I can believe that. I can believe that.
Just spontaneously combust.
I mean,
One of his famous...
it's just fucking stupid. It's RFK looks, no he doesn't. No. Because when RFK is asked about Israel, he supports Israel. So, RFK is just another, he's a Kennedy. I never understand the idea that you think you can trust a Kennedy. What? They've been lying to the American public for 100 years,
That dude was openly fucking some broad while he was married to supposedly the most striking woman
She
in
is
America.
ugly as fuck. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis was ugly.
Oh. But he was openly fucking another chick in his
Lots of
White
chicks.
House.
Him and his brother were fucking the same broad. That is gross.
Disgusting.
I don't have any brothers or sisters, but I know I don't want my brothers cum on my shit. Sorry. But it's this is the narrative that, like, the average trumpet will say just that stupid stuff. And again, so what was better about America during Trump's time? You do remember that Trump gave us COVID, right? Like, that's under the Trump watch. I love how the Trumpanzees seemingly forget that. But, like, COVID and the whole lockdown and you can't see your grandparents and we're not supposed to touch each other and, everybody hates each other bullshit. That's all Trump. That's all the Trump people. And then I'm like, okay, so think back. What else is there? Gas prices went down for a couple of months. And during the Trump campaign, or during the Trump presidency, they went right back up. So anybody that wants to say, well, gas prices were way lower, yeah, they were. For a hot second. But Trump has nothing, the president has nothing to do with the gas prices to begin with.
Wasn't that at the end of Obama's presidency?
No, it was well into 2016, maybe 17. So no, not necessarily. But, like, the thing that I just don't, do you guys really think the president of the United States is sitting at his desk trying to balance the budget? Do you guys really think the president of the United States, all the times you see him out golfing, all the times you see him traveling all over to campaign, to shake hands, to kiss babies and all that, do you really think they're spending all this time trying to, well, how do I fix the race relations? well, let me think. Well, how do I allocate this to this, and how do I do? No, the president is not sitting around trying to balance the budget. The president is not sitting there trying to figure shit out. He is completely and totally surrounded by Jews, from the people who decide what he wears, where he goes, what he says, his speechwriters, all that shit. It's all Jews. He's just an actor.
And Trump would be totally pleased if black people became slaves again and women got out of the workforce and just stayed at home and serviced their men. That's his whole thing. So if you're black or female and you support that piece of shit, you're fucked in the head.
I see the occasional female or the occasional person of color, and it's just like, what? Like, do you guys remember how famous Omarosa was? She was actually pretty fucking famous. You know, she made a pretty decent name for herself. She put out a book. She put out a book that confirmed that Trump was a racist, that he did horrible things and said horrible things. Haven't heard from her since. You know, RFK is really connected to the vax movement, right? But the whole vaccination movement isn't about telling the truth. The vaccination movement is about telling a certain narrative. But the idea that they are purposefully, giving us these vaccines for negative consequences isn't something that's talked about. It's talked about it like it's an accident. You know, it's talked about it like it's not a biological attack, and they push the narrative of autism connected to vaccines, and it's not. Vaccines don't cause autism. 100% do not cause autism. Do I think vaccines are safe and you should? No. But autism specifically? No. Autism is something you're born with. It's fucking awful. It is what it is, but it's not vaccines. Vaccine damage is something completely different. Bring disgrace to the deceased. Again, such stupid logic. If somebody was a piece of shit and they hid it until they were dead, and then when they're dead it comes out, good. I don't speak ill of the dead. Why? Are you fucking crazy? Why? I don't understand all these stupid rules that they put on us.
They're not here to defend themselves and tell their side of the story.
So?
Anybody can say shit about somebody that's dead, not there to defend themselves.
Right, but if the evidence is there, then what are we doing? I mean, it's not like, see, we act like if somebody's there to defend themselves because people tell the truth. Especially when they're trying to defend themselves. Especially when really bad shit about somebody comes out. They'll be like, yeah, you got me. No. Most people will, TCAP, To Catch a Predator, is one of the most telling shows you can watch. Because time after time you get somebody who is religious. And they'll swear up, I swear up and down, I swear to God and Jesus, I wasn't going to do anything. I was just here to blah, 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 blah. I was just here to check on the person. And okay, I know my chats are really sexually charged, but I was just saying what I needed to say to get here. I swear, I know I have condoms, but I was just, and I know I brought liquor, but I swear to God, I wasn't going to do anything. People don't believe in that shit. They just say it. I think most people that claim they're religious, that claim they believe in God, that claim they're Christian or whatever, they're not. I mean, they are in name, but most people don't even know what the fuck their Bible says, let alone walking around like, I'm a Christian, I live a Christian life. You don't. Most of you eat meat. The Bible clearly says animals should be used for their labor, and the seeds and the plants should be used as the meat. That's literally what they call it. The seeds in the plants are the meat that we should eat. At what point did Christians go, okay, you know what? We're going to eat meat, but not on the weekends. Okay, we're going to eat meat, but not on Fridays. Okay, we're going to eat meat, but we won't eat fish or we won't eat meat on Lent. From Lent to this, okay? So.
And fish doesn't somehow count as meat.
And fish isn't meat. Right. Like, it's just stupid. You know, and most things are like that. Most things are pretty stupid when you think about it. Rocks, diamonds, precious stones and shit like that. How long are they going to be able to convince people that diamonds are this finite resource that's precious and that's you know, not very common, scarce? How long are they going to be able to do that? What about gold? Literally, gold and jewels. We have ornate fucking They used to make statues out of gold.
Buildings.
I don't know about buildings, but
All the gold-plated buildings.
you know, there's clearly no lack of supply. And then you look into like the history of diamonds and the De Beers company and how they came up with this narrative about an engagement ring so they could sell more diamonds. That diamonds are, it was an advertising campaign that some woman did. And diamonds are a girl's best friend. And like, what they've done is they've created.
Come up with that.
Yeah, a woman did. They created this whole narrative that men, you're not a good enough man if you can't buy your woman, if you don't buy your woman an expensive, put yourself in debt. Instead of, you know, putting that $12,000 down on a house, you're going to buy a ring that as soon as you leave the fucking store is worth the gold that's in it. The diamond, the stone that you have isn't worth shit. You know, this narrative is everywhere. These narratives, these lies, these you know, the one of the biggest lies is that we're the most advanced people that ever lived on this planet. When it's clearly not true. You know, I mean, there are countless structures and you know, megaliths and monoliths and just entire towns and shit that we can't do today. So thinking that we're the most advanced version of us is just stupid. But that's how it is. And of course, this all comes back to the Jews. The Jews control that narrative. It's like they figured out.
Archduke Maximilian of Austria commissioned the very first diamond engagement ring on Earth.
The entire engagement thing was something that De Beers, they hired a woman in the 1900s, in the early 1900s. Forget it. I'm not going to see. This is what I'm talking. I didn't say they came up with the concept. I said the whole thing about the diamond, the engagement rings and all that having to be diamonds and all that. It was a marketing ploy. Again, you're so big on men versus women and all that shit. There's no point. I don't care if it was a man or a woman that came up with it. It doesn't matter. Well, it had to be a man that came up with that. Okay. Like, it just... You know, when you have chips on your shoulder, you look at things differently. It's just what it is. It's a strange thing, man. It's strange. But that whole, like, you know, it's super important that we all do this, that men, it wasn't always like that. And then the thing is, for me at least, as soon as you start talking about something that happened in the 1400s, blah, blah, I don't care. I don't believe it.
Tartaria was before that, right?
Yep. Yeah. You know, the narratives of, you know, the whole Tartaria thing explains where the buildings and the structures and all that shit that we can't do today possibly came from. You know, there's like, my wife doesn't, she thinks it's stupid for some reason, probably because I like it, but the idea that there are old maps, like, you've put literally zero research into this thing, and you're going to deny it or poo-poo it. And it's difficult because it's like you just, you know, the stuff that you accept from the narrative that we're supposed to be given, the official it's crazy. But you accept it because that's what you're supposed to do. Yet there's so many obvious questions that exist. And it's, again, when we're talking about 1400 something, we have records of things that were going on with individual people in the middle of these, you know, 5, 6, 7, 800, 5,000, you know, all these years ago. We have their accounts, and we like, do you not realize how stupid that is? Do you know how many times you try to look up the origin of something or whatever, and it's like, it should be right there, but we can't find it? Yet we're supposed to have all these records from, you know, 1400s and shit. Where? How do we know? I know all those records and stuff. Well, you don't have access to anything. You just have to go with what they tell you. And the thing is, the more you look into each of the things that you believe, like Columbus, sure, there's the narrative that your school in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, like that kind of shit. But then you start to like look in and you go, wait, there's a lot more to it than this. And it depending on what, you know, how deep you want to go, like there's supposedly Columbus's journals from on the during the time when on the ship talk about a UFO, a silver disc coming out of the wall, a silver, I think it was a shield, something, a silver shield came out of the water with the light of a candle, floated around, you know, went around a couple times, went back down. Like that's part of it, but then you get the people, oh, that's just a fake, that's a fake narrative. And, you know, at the end of the day, you have no freaking idea.
All of our history is bullshit. All of it. We have no proof of any of it. And it's all bullshit.
Exactly.
Go into it assuming it's all lies, or it's been twisted or changed, then you're much better off.
But the hardest
and none of it matters. It doesn't matter to today.
The hardest thing about it, though, is to do it to the things that you like. It's easy to shit on things that you think are stupid. It's much, much harder to you know, to be like, oh, I subscribe to this. Here, let me prove it false. You know, that's the real trick in all of this. That's why talking to Christians is so difficult. Because they've already accepted this narrative based on nothing. And yet, you know, what are you going to... You're going to get them to be like, you know what? I think the majority of my life has been a waste. Because I wasted all this time and effort and energy on Jesus. You know, and...
Stupid shit like the Statue of Liberty was a gift from France. What? All bullshit. All
right, but then
bullshit.
that goes into Tartaria, which you don't want to talk about.
I It's not that I don't want to talk about it. It's not that I don't think that it's a possibility that it existed. It just doesn't matter.
It's not a possibility that it existed. It 100% existed. Tartaria absolutely existed.
Okay. But again, like I said, it doesn't matter. That was so far long ago and has nothing to do
it
with
does, because
our
we are
day-to-day
still,
now.
it could have something to do with the betterment of our day-to-day life. It seems as though, they had free energy. I mean, free energy would if the people back in the day had all this free energy and whatnot, then why don't we?
I mean, technically we still do. There's been some asshole along the way that found a way to charge people for it, and then people thought that they had to pay for it.
No.
Energy is still free.
No.
It's just not to us anymore.
No, that's not necessarily true. So the free energy is thought to be just energy that exists, that's in the air, in the ether at all times, and the earth produces it, and they were able to pull that energy out. So they didn't have to have big turbines, they didn't have to have steam power. They had these antenna and whatnot that could harness this energy and then deliver it.
Which is probably what DTE has, but sells us on the turbines and the other bullshit.
Maybe that's actually a really good point. But see, that's part of, you have to know the history. I'm so glad that even though I don't believe in the majority of the history that I know it. And that anybody that tries talking to me about history and shit, I'm not just some dumbass. I know what you know, but I know what I know too. And that to me, that puts me in a position of advantage. Mm-hmm. And so I it's like, I want to ask the Jews that control the world what happened to all this stuff. Now, again, to waste time on any of it is sort of foolish, because you can't get the answers you need. Which then again leads us back to the Jews in Israel, and that we need to override who's in control so we can get the answers we're looking for. You're someone that believes in birth charts. You should absolutely want to override the Jews that control us so that you can get the truth about the birth charts and what it all means. If the truth is we don't live in a fucking ball flying around, blah, blah, blah. That makes a big difference. That's a big thing. And it all fits in together. The Jews that control us, they have us believing in a round earth flying through space constantly. You don't realize it, but your belief in a round earth flying through space creates anxiety. Right? Might not be something that's in the forefront of your brain, but it can easily be put there and exploited. Because all it takes is them saying, hey, an asteroid is going to fly closer to the Earth than it ever has, and it might hit us. And it immediately, we're talking about anxiety on levels that doesn't exist in many other ways. Just like religion, is this anxiety that's created. This belief that somebody's always watching you, making sure you do the right things, the good things, because if you don't, you're going to burn in hell for all of eternity. That's anxiety inducing. You believe in the dinosaurs. There were these great, huge beasts that roamed the earth and were as big as is airplanes and shit like that. Like, these are huge, fucking huge, big monsters. And they were wiped out because a rock fell from the sky. That's anxiety inducing. And it's really interesting how every single thing that we sort of believe in is a negative. It's a doomsday. It's a, you believe in pole shifts? Oh yeah, man. At one point, the Earth's crust is just sitting on the mantle and stuff. And sometimes, for reasons we don't understand, the North Pole and the South Pole switch places, and it happens almost instantly. That's why somebody found a mammoth one time that was frozen and it still had grass in its mouth that it was chewing. No, it's true. We found that. Can I see it? No, you can't see it.
But the same could be said for Atlantis, the Mayans, Tartaria.
It's not true.
They were all wiped out at some point, so that should be anxiety inducing too. If they could all be wiped out, why can't we be wiped out?
We can be. That's the point. But it's like all that shit. These are impossible scenarios that you can't do anything about. That the rock falls from the sky, the pole shifts, the super volcano explodes. It's a super volcano. It's gonna explode and it's gonna kill us all. Like, it's all there. And yes, there is the whole idea of the reset theory. And personally, I believe I can explain it better than most. Because I think that, because the mystery is what happened. What happened in the 1700s, 1800s, something like that wiped out that society that was there. And to me, what seemingly makes more sense than anything and includes everything. Like, you can explain the religious side of things, you can explain the pole shifts, you can explain all that shit with the television, with the TV show theory. The idea that resets happen, that the Hopi Indians believe that we're on the fifth incarnation of people on the earth, and that each incarnation has been wiped out by an element of some sort. Ether, water, the Great Flood, the Great Fire, blah, 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 all these things. They're basically talking about the same thing. Little bits of the story are getting through, but to me, if this is all just a TV show, a reality-based TV show, and the point is that we don't, again, I think they tell us the truth in lots of different ways. And a lot of times they tell us the truth in ways that are stupid. So that, the Angela of the world, the skeptic of the king, you saw that on South Park. That was stupid. What are you talking about? But South Park did it. There was an episode where South Park, where the Earth gets canceled. And it turns out that we are just a reality TV show. And the aliens that control the thing, see, they did it in a way that makes it ridiculous. And one of the main ways they did that was when they showed the Earth in space and a wrecking ball come up, beep, 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 and a wrecking ball starts smashing into the Earth. Because that's stupid. But the controllers are the Jewsians. They're these green aliens. And they have all the standard Jewish features. But something happened. I need to rewatch the episode. And we find out that we're on TV. That we're a reality TV show. And just like if a camera is set up on the side of the road and a newscaster is doing the news, or wrestling, but newscasters doing the news and the person comes on and they go, hey, look at me, I'm stupid, look, I'm in the background. Or like if you watch a sporting event, like wrestling or boxing or something, there will be people that buy tickets that are right in front of what's called the hard camera, which is the main camera view. So on the other side of the ring from the main camera, right? and they'll sit there and they'll watch the big screen up at the top to see if the hard camera is used. And as soon as the shot goes from inside the ring to the hard camera, they stand up with their sign and they wave throughout the entire show. They just keep doing it. Like, and you'll see them on their phone, like they're calling their friends to be like, hey, you could see me on the TV, look. And it's just, that's who we are as people. We, you know, a lot of us, not all of us, a lot of us will shy away, but find out that we're in a TV show, immediately just like with everything else, the immediate question is, okay, well, who is on the outside? Who built the thing? So like the fabled Tower of Babel and shit like that. That is an example of us figuring it out, storming the Jews, figuring it out, and then building this amazing tower to try to get to the top. Because they've put water all around us. The further you go in the water, the choppier it gets, the colder it gets. They make it really impossible to get to those outer limits. The higher you go, the air, you know, thins out and all these things. It gets real cold, blah, blah, blah. They figured out a way to keep us in our little bubble. Just like Truman Show.
But then what?
Then what?
You get the answers, you find out the truth, then what?
Well, that's the thing that sort of gives me reservations. Right? Because if my theory is true,
life, searching for those answers, and you get them, then what?
Don't know how I'm missing out on day-to-day life, but okay, whatever.
I'm saying you in particular.
But the end game is a negative one, which makes me then go, gee, I wonder if the elite are actually doing us a favor. Like, I hate thinking like that, but that's how I think about things. I don't let what I like be the end of the argument, be the end of my, I like this, so I'm going to stop thinking about it. No, I keep asking why. So the idea that every time we figure out that we're in some sort of TV show or something, it leads to a reset. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's why the system keeps us so stupid, to keep themselves and all the rest of us alive. I don't know. But I know I can't possibly know that for certain until we overthrow the Jews that control the narrative. And that's really what it comes down to time and time again. Until we overthrow the Jews that control the narrative, we are going to be subjected. You know, we are going to be their slaves. We're at their mercy. And, you know, again, maybe that does lead to a reset. I don't know. I want to know. I want to find out. I look at the way the world works because again, I'm really not.
Your life and your kids' lives and everybody you love's lives. It's worth it now.
I mean, it's compared to the depression and the anxiety-riddled lives that the majority of us live anyway. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I know that right now, like, I know most of the things that we're supposed to focus on keep us focused on a past that we can't change, fix, you know, do anything about or prove. So when you look at what's happening right fucking now, if the world we live in is this way by design, which it seems to be, that's not really fair. That really sucks. And right now there's a genocide happening. You know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's not a TV show. Maybe none of that bullshit is real. Okay. But there is a genocide taking place. And the Jews absolutely control our society. So, you know, if the Jews control our society and our society's really fucked up and you know, we're all at each other's throats and everybody's, it's two small disasters from being homeless and all that other shit. Like, we shouldn't live like this. This shouldn't be it. We shouldn't, we shouldn't be giving money to Israel for Israelis to kill Christians, Muslims, whatever, while there are people that can't eat. While there are homeless children, homeless people. I mean, I get that some people will look at people with problems and be, well, they're making a choice. You make that choice. So, but yeah, well, not everybody is built the same way. Not everybody has the same strength you may have, or whatever. And some people need help. And in our society, there's not a lot of help. And it's just, we have the means, the technology, and the resources to basically live in a utopia. If that utopia leads to the canceling of our show, I guess. But knowing that the fear that I have of the future that my kids will live in, their kids will live in, the fear of a roundup, the fear of the Jews getting scared, and as they said, if they ever, the Samson option, if they ever feel like Israel is in danger again, they're going to nuke they're going to nuke everywhere. They're going to send their nukes out in every direction and kill everybody. Nobody should have that. And why like, I want things to be better. I don't understand why anybody would want, like, the idea that is your TV watching experience better because you have a more expensive TV than your neighbor? Now, the TV might be better, but is the watching experience better because your TV is better than someone else's? No. I mean, it shouldn't be. Your TV is great because it's a great TV. It's not because other people don't have that TV. And if everybody else had the same great TV, that wouldn't take away from your experience at all, would it? I think we live in a really fucked up world. And it seems as though, that utopian society that we lived in was the Tartaria shit. And that seemingly lasted for quite some time. So I don't know what it was that wiped things out. I'd like to know. I want to know what those things are, and I believe that our society knows. I believe that the Jews at the top that keep all the information on lockdown, I believe they know these things. I think truth is a good thing, regardless of whether it hurts your feelings or not. It's still the truth. You still should know the truth. If the truth is you're a lot uglier than you think you are, well, then maybe you won't keep getting your heart broken thinking that you should, like my buddy Raj, right? Like, I've always said, man, like, you want to date an 8 or a 9 or a 10 or something, and you're like a 3 on a good day. Like, unless you have an incredible mouthpiece, unless you can spit some real game.
Or a fat wallet. There's those shallow bitches out there.
Yeah, but that's not a happiness providing thing. I want him to be happy. So if he gets some bitch that's with him just for his wallet, that's not going to be happy. If he can spit a good game, if he's a good talker, I'm not saying spitting lies or anything, deception. It's just he's not some, meek, I'm ugly, I'm weird, so I'm going to act like that. Like, if he, Casanova was a short, fat, ugly man He just had a really good game. And so, like, you know, for someone like him, he might be able to find some actual happiness if he was like, he believed the truth. Like, dude, you're never going to get a 9 or a 10. It's just not going to happen. So aim for like a high 5, a low 6. And maybe you'll find some happiness. You won't be so alone and desperate and going to strip clubs and all that. But at the same time, how can you tell somebody to not be attracted to what they're attracted to?
You're saying he's not going to be happy with a high 5 because that's not what he likes.
Well, I think if he were to be a little more honest with himself and honest about things, I mean, you can't tell me it's better to never get laid than to get laid by a, you know, a 5 or a 6.
8, 4, 9, 10.
Well, and that's the other side. To you know, to have somebody that actually likes you, loves you, and shares that connection with you, but they're not super hot, is, I would imagine, a lot better than you paid for a 9 or a 10. You know, and she had to, like, hang on, let me go clean up before we do this. Gross. But this is the, you know, it's all about making life better for everyone. I even think the Jews' lives would be better. You know, I don't understand how, unless you truly get enjoyment out of other people's suffering, I don't understand how life wouldn't be better if we lived in a society where, you know, my goal in this whole thing is actually what I call truly selfish. And I think if we were all truly selfish, not superficially selfish, but truly selfish, the world would be a better place. Because if you're truly selfish, at least from my definition of it, is that, you know, I want myself, my wife, and my kids to live the happiest, healthiest, safest life possible. And the only way that exists is if everyone else is doing the same thing. If everyone else is happy, healthy, and safe, then my family will be happy, healthy, and safe. As long as there are people out there struggling, you know, the foundation of most crime is necessity. I'm not saying it'll completely eliminate it, but what that also means is, you know, we have to stop. Like, again, the idea that pedophiles don't get killed when they get caught because of some sort of religious, we can't play God bullshit. What? Kill those motherfuckers. Kill them all. You know, and hopefully eventually we can just eliminate that. I think if people knew that they'd get killed, they'd be much less likely to do it. But, you know, again, if I'm wrong about any of this shit, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear from the trumpet. You know, the trumpet that immediately goes to, oh, so you vote for Biden? Like, what do you say after that's clearly not the case? After it's like, no, dummy, I don't fall for either side. Just because you do doesn't mean everybody else does. So then where does it go? Where do you go from there? Why is it so hard to find somebody that can tell me why they support Trump? It seems like this impossible task. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, it does. It makes sense because there's nothing to support other than he's a racist. Racist. You're a racist. He's a racist. You know, he He touches on your racist sensibilities, and you're like, yeah, I like that guy. And that's all I'm left with, because I keep asking people what it is they support, and they have no idea. I had somebody actually say to me that they only support Trump because of his economic policies. And I was like, cool, what are they? And he didn't say anything. Nothing else came out. And it's like, dude, you can't set it up like that and not deliver. I don't know, guys. I'm desperately trying to be shown what I'm wrong about. That's all it ever comes down to. I can learn from you. If you're right and I'm wrong, Trump's the good guy, blah, 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 then I can learn from you. Help me understand what the fuck is going on. Help me understand your perspective. Why is that so difficult? I don't get it. You know, I really don't. You know, I'm watching the number of viewers bounce up and down. And I just think, how many people, this is going to be one of those things where when I'm done, a couple hundred people will have come through, and it's like, none of you have a fucking an opinion on any of this? I'm not talking about, you know, what I planted in my yard or what my neighbor did that you don't know. I'm talking about the shit that affects all of us. It's too hot. This can't be open. Sorry, it's too fucking hot up here. I don't know. It literally comes down to, let's all just put our cards on the table and whatever makes the most sense. I don't care about feelings. I want to know what makes sense. That's provable, that we can say, okay, look, like if there was a rock that my wife could say, all right, carry this rock with you all day, and you're going to notice that you have good luck, good fortune throughout the day. You go open up a pack of cards and there's a banger in there, or, you know, and of course, beyond the one day coincidentally aspect of it, if I could say, you know, for a week, I held this rock in my pocket and things just, I had a rocket in my pocket and everything just worked out really, really well. I'm surprised. I would be willing to say this rock has some sort of powers, you know, whatever it may be. But like that to me just seems like if you're gonna believe in something, like I always wonder why the Christians don't have the questions I have. Right? Like if I'm gonna identify with Christianity, I want to know about it. I want to know why this or that. I want to know why we're supposed to be quiet about the pedophile stuff. I want to know all of it. If it's rocks and birth, I want to know how that shit. I mean, again, if you believe in birth charts and horoscopes and all that shit, us living in a dome structure actually supports that way more than us living in a solar system universe, all that shit. Because especially that when all this shit was created by somebody, if thousands of years ago, well then all those things aren't in the same spots. I mean, even when it comes to like horoscopes and shit like that, birth charts, all that, well, the zodiac used to be 13 signs. There was a 13th month, and they just sort of got rid of it. So how does that not throw everything off? Especially however many years it is since then. Because, like if you're adding 13 plus 13 plus 13 plus 13 plus 13 plus 13, it's gonna work out differently than if it's 12 plus 12 plus 12 plus 12 plus 12. The things won't be in those same spots anymore. It just doesn't work that way. But, more importantly to me is like, okay, something like the zodiac. Like, who the fuck came up with that shit? If it's supposed to be peasants, if we're supposed to be these unadvanced people who, just barely got by with our sheep and who the fuck was sitting out in a field one night, mapping out the stars and deciding that this grouping of stars is actually a man, and that's his belt, and he's holding a lion, and he's got a sword like this. It doesn't look like that at all. The belt, I guess, it's 3 stars in a row, so that looks like Orion's. The only thing that actually works is the Big Dipper. The Big Dipper is the only one that actually looks like what it's called. And it's the thing about all of it too is like, so we're supposedly back in 2012 when everything was supposed to end because of the Mayan calendar. It was actually, the Mayan calendar never said anything about ending like life. It was the end of the cycle, the great cycle, which again, it's like, how much of this is true? Like, so the idea is that I think it's every 1,200 years or 12,000 years. Like, it's so goofy because, like, so even science supposedly backs this up and says that the Earth rises and our solar system rises and falls in the Milky Way galaxy, and that there's a center of the galaxy and there's an equator like line that goes across. So every 12,000 years we go from being below the line and then we go back up above the line, and according to the Mayans and all that like we have 12,000 golden years, and then we have 12,000 dark years, and then we have and that's what that cycle is. And it supposedly, the cycle ended, the last of the 12,000 dark years, which is what we were in for the previous 12,000 years, ended in 2012, December 21st, 2012 or whatever. That's what the whole thing is. And it supposedly also coincides with the zodiac, that we go into the age of Aquarius and all this other shit. Well, how do you know all that? How do we know all that? Can you prove that we're now in the age of Aquarius? My wife is big on the whole, Mercury is in retrograde. First of all, you know what retrograde is? Retrograde is where the star or whatever it is that's normally going this way, the planet, suddenly goes back like this and then comes back around. And it happens 4 times a year for every planet, every, Jupiter, all that shit. It goes into retrograde, or 4 times a revolution or something. I don't fucking know. But this idea that Mercury is in retrograde, we discovered Mercury supposedly in 262 BC, I believe. The telescope wasn't invented until 400 some years ago, 500, 600 years ago, can't remember. Something like that. And it was really shady. I mean, it was just 2 pieces of glass, blah, blah, blah. And the whole myth of telescopes is stupid to begin with. Telescopes don't allow you to see a giddy billion miles into space. Telescopes take your viewpoint from here to here. So they clear out all this bullshit distraction around you, and they magnify this. So you're not seeing further, now you can count the hairs on my eyelashes and my eyebrows. Here you can't count the hairs on my eyebrows. Just that simple. That's all telescopes are. You go outside, you take your telescope, you face it across the street. You're not going to see the molecules of paint, the layers of paint that your neighbor painted their house with, and yet no, you're going to see their address a little bit better. You can every single like 90s comedy and shit like that every comedy that's based in New York City or something like that, it's always, even we saw it yesterday with the Hawaii 5-0 thing where the guy had his telescope and he was looking at the girl across the way. How does a telescope let you look at the girl on her balcony across the way a little bit better, yet it also allows you to see into infinity? It just doesn't work. But even still, when it comes to Mercury, how do you know? The only time you could ever possibly see Mercury is during the daytime. If the phone is the sun and my head is the earth, how does the backside of my head ever see anything in between the sun and the earth? Even when you say, okay, well, when you turned like this part of your head can see this part of the... Yeah, so that's why Venus is the morning star, because you can only see it for a very short time in the morning sometimes. But when do people see Mercury? It's stupid. And to not want any sort of explanation, to not just go, well, Mercury's in retrograde, so must be this. Like, how the fuck do you know? Who decided that Mercury being in retrograde was going to affect anything? Who made that up? Or not made that? Who figured it out? We'll say. How did they figure it out? And then, not only did they figure it out, it was disseminated across the whole planet to the point where in 2024, Angela knows it's happening. How the fuck did that happen? That is just, it's mind-numbing, and it's impossible to answer unless we overthrow the Jews that control our narrative. And we get access to all the books, the Vatican vaults, the 50 miles worth of vault space of shelves that Vatican has underneath it that has who knows what's in it. Now there's this church in, I don't remember. I want to say Argentina, but I could be wrong. But it's supposedly this church where the Ark of the Covenant is held. And the story is that there's this one building in the church that's completely old world building, and it's all, you can't see in it and blah, blah, blah. But the Ark of the Covenant is in there, and it's protected by a female warrior who is never seen and picks her own successor and all this. But it's like, okay, so first of all, how does that how like, what if that woman dies and like she has a heart attack or something and she dies? How is anybody going to know? Where does she get her food from? Do they bring her meals and her food and then, but she picks her own successor. So what? Do they give her three choices and then she kills two of them and then the one is her successor? I mean, and if you were the Catholic Church and you knew your numbers were failing and people weren't believing in your shit and blah, 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 and you had Islam to contend with and you had Judaism to contend with and you had all these other things, but you had the Ark of the Covenant, the proof that your shit existed, why would you hide it? Why would you keep it secret? Oh, it's to test people's faith. And why does that? Life is enough of a test of faith that if you have a little bit of evidence you can show for once, that'd be pretty nice, wouldn't it? But like this is how the world works. The majority of the people are Christians and they don't even know why. They're Christians because their parents were Christians and made them do the Christian thing, and then they just went with it. At some point, you stop, having that spark that makes you want to question things and figure things out, and you eventually, yeah, okay, well, yeah, it don't make any sense, but I'm just gonna believe it. It's dumb. It's dumb. They have us dumb as hell. And it leads me back. It's always these circles where it just leads me back to, well, did they do that to keep us alive? I can't understand, other than keeping us more controlled and then in the bigger picture alive, why do they keep us so stupid? It's strange. Anyway, well, I think that's it. Pedophiles, kill yourself. Fuck Israel. Fuck these Jews. That's our enemy. That's the enemy. Everybody talks about they, them, they. I'm putting the fucking name on it. I'm telling you who it is. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. Anyway, pedophiles, kill yourself. The rest of you, I guess I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe later, who knows. But don't forget to follow this page. Like these videos and follow. I'm doing this shit all the time, and you wouldn't be here. You saw the title, whatever it was, and you came here. It's for a reason. There's a reason why you're sitting there watching, even if you're quiet. If you disagree with me, why aren't you telling me that? This is social media. If anything, look at my comments. How many people go live on social media talking about such controversial things and have zero, well, almost no comments? There's nobody in here calling me names. There's nobody in here telling me how stupid I am. None of it. I'm just here talking, calling Jews out and saying Christianity is crazy and history isn't real and blah, blah, blah. Earth's flat. Where are you? Tell me what I'm wrong about. I'm open to it. I'm not going to just agree with you because you, the stranger, says it, but I'm open to it. Anyway, again, pedophiles, kill yourself.